Welcome back, everyone. Tonight I'm going to talk about motors, and these go into the SCX24s, and you can see I've got a growing fleet of stuff. But anyway, the motor that you're going to get comes with the vehicle is this 88 turn motor by Dynamite, and it's not a bad motor. Everybody talks about how it's kind of a bad motor, but it's really not that bad. It's good. It's got a lot of torque. It's adequate for the car. The problem is there's a few places on the car that you got to fix because it rubs, and these do get hot. The first thing you should do when you get a car is make sure that you clearance everything on the chassis that could possibly rub, and there's a couple of places, and I've talked about that in other videos. The other thing you should do when you get this motor is to essentially take the entire transmission out of it and peel the whole sticker off. It's hard to get it without disassembling the vehicle, but once you do, then you can put these little heat sinks on it. I got this, they're for a computer, but they work really good. It's 8x8 by I think 5, and that's what they look like. They're really cheap. I got a bag of 10 on eBay. There's the part number if you want it. And what I've done with that to extend the life of this truck, this is my dad's. I don't know if you can see in there. Yeah, you can kind of see it straight through. I've got one on the side of the motor in there. I installed that with tweezers and super glue, and I've got one on the side of the motor here. You can see it there, and it's just super glued on. I wish I had moved that forward and glued a second one on behind it just for a little more heat dissipation. If you have the Enduro 24, you can do the same thing, except it really only wants to go on one side. I'll pull the pins on this to show you how I did mine, but I just glued it to the side. Again, I wish I'd have done two, but I don't know if there's actually enough room. I did two. I did one on the top and one on the side, and I put dielectric grease to fill the gap so that it would have a continuous contact. But that's a little nod to the Enduro guys. This truck's not done, by the way. I've got some big plans for it. Bigger tires, move the battery, stuff you've already seen on other videos. Back to the SCX24. A lot of people, instead of buying this motor that everybody badmouths because it burns up, partially due to rubbing, partially due to, I think, even having the sticker on it, they buy these barrage motors. And the barrage motor, I'm coming to find out, everybody talks about the gearing, the gear that comes with the barrage, and whether you should use the stock gear or the one that comes with it. Well, this is the stock gear, and this is the one that comes in the package with the barrage motor. And I thought they were a little bit different pitch. They look like they were, but when you put them together, it looks like it matches up pretty good. I'll try to zoom in on that. It matches pretty good. I see no trouble with that mating. It works perfect. Same goes for this one. This is, oops, I almost dropped it. This is the one that comes in the package with the barrage motor. And initially, like I said, we thought it was not gonna fit properly, but it looks like, my hands are all torn up right now. Sorry about that. They usually are. I'm always working on something. It looks like it's about a 0.3 modulus gear as well. And when I say modulus, that's just a measure of the coarseness of the teeth, essentially. You'll see the hot racing gear has a modulus of 0.5, and it's quite a bit more coarse. And these are both spur gears that you can use. The hot racing gear can also be used, and it comes with a 0.5 modulus pinion gear, and you can see that it fits in there perfectly. A 0.5 and a 0.3 will not go together well. They will not go together hardly at all. I don't know if you can see that, but those are not gears that interact well with each other. So make sure that you are running the correct pinion with the correct spur. The 0.3 modulus gears run a lot smoother and quieter. I do think that they are a bit more fragile just because the teeth are more delicate, but they sound nice when they run. And this one, it doesn't sound nice, but it can handle a lot of torque. And I'll show you the difference in how they sound. You probably are familiar with it, but in case you're new, I'll show it to you. I'll start off with the stock system and stock gearing of the 0.3 modulus gear. Got kind of a smooth sound, and with load it doesn't sound much different, but it just sounds slicker and smoother. And here's the 0.5 hot racing gear, 0.5 modulus, and it is a bit more coarse, so you can actually see it in there. It's that silver portion right under my finger, and the teeth are more coarse. You can hear the difference, I'm sure. I'll just play them back to back, 0.3 then 0.5. Alright, a couple notes that I should have said earlier as I was talking. You'll notice the 88 turn motor has a splined output shaft on it. I'll put a photo up of that. It's a close-up just so you can see what that looks like. The barrage motor has a smooth axle. It's not splined at all, and I'll show you a close-up video or close-up photo of that as well. Alright, we'll talk about these barrage motors. You can get them from different manufacturers. This one came from Dynamite Horizon, as you can see, and it on the case says FF050SH-1855, and basically this is a Mabuchi motor. They're a dime a dozen off the shelf. They put them in a ton of things. It was not made specifically for rock crawling. Okay, RSGT.com or RSGTRacing.com has this nice sticker they put on it that I would tear off as soon as I got it, but it says 050 crawler spec. So, yeah, 050-crawler spec. On the side, you'll notice it says FF-050SH-1855. It's exactly the same motor. This is another barrage motor, exactly the same. So you can actually go on Google and Google that, and it will come up with probably a million places to buy these motors. And I don't know where I did that myself a few weeks ago when I did not have any motors, and I came up with this FF050SH and then some different numbers on the bottom. And some things that I've found are different is the can is exactly the same length, same end on it. The difference, the one for the RC car has a resistor to kind of clean up electronic noise because it's having to receive a signal. And the other thing that I've noticed is different is the output shaft length. You can see that this one's a bit longer. So if I put a ruler across that, maybe I'll get this shrink wrap out of the way, or that, you can notice the difference. But when you buy a barrage motor, you have to shorten the shaft anyway, otherwise it'll rub on the transmission housing. So I have gone and used my calipers here and figured out that the distance between here, the end of the motor, you know, this bell where the bearing is, or the bushing in this case, to the end of the shaft is about, let me get it straight on, looks like about 5.5 millimeters or so. And what I would do is I would just mark this where 5.5 millimeters is, and then get a Dremel tool out and just shave off the end of it. Then it doesn't matter how long this output shaft is, because you're going to cut it anyway. If you don't cut it, it's going to hit the cover of the transmission. I'll show you that. This is the transmission cover that comes on your SCX24, and this was my original one. And you can see on the right side there a very small dimple inside of that circle, or that oblong shape. That is where I did not cut the axle initially, and it did rub on the case. So you do have to make sure that does get cut back a little bit. If you don't, it will rub. It's just a matter of fact, and that will overheat your engine, and you'll wonder why, oh, my motor doesn't run right, it goes through motors too fast. I don't know what's going on. So that is the reason why you need to shorten that output shaft a little bit. But it's not a big deal to do that. Just buzz it with the Dremel, use a cutting wheel, and that'll fit on nicely. But cut it to 5.5 millimeters. That's all you need coming out of the side of the motor. Alright, I mentioned a few weeks ago I ordered these. I got them on eBay when there is a shortage of barrage motors at my local hobby store, and they were just out. You couldn't even order them a while back, so I wanted to get a something I could use. So when I googled these, I found these online. Do note that they don't come with wires, they don't come with the capacitor, so you can move those over. It's not a big deal. If you know how to solder, just move them yourself. They go real quick. The capacitor just goes from one end to the other, and they just join the terminals, and you can solder these over very quickly. Here's a note that I do when I'm soldering. I use this, and it's called 5% acid flux, and this stuff is awesome. It really does a nice job. Instead of that paste flux, I don't like it. It doesn't make clean joints. But you just paint this on your wire end or your terminal end, just barely, and then when you go to tin it, which when I mean tinning is you put a little bit of solder on the tip of your soldering iron, and then you touch it to that spot that you've just put the flux on, and it will instantly grab on and make a solid bond. It's awesome. You tin the wire as well, and then when you touch them, I mean, you just got to tap that on, and it's solid, it's clean. It's way better than these joints that you'll see even from the factory. So I got this on eBay. I used to use it when I raced slot cars back in the 90s, and it really works nice. I think it was like $7 on eBay. But the beautiful thing about these, when I bought them, couldn't buy them anywhere in the world at hobby stores because apparently this packaging was unavailable. I don't know. I ended up getting these for about $2.50 a piece. I mean, they're dirt cheap. Don't be afraid to go ahead and buy one on eBay. You know you're going to shorten the output shaft, and look at that. It even has the same mounting holes. You can't beat that. So the last four numbers, that FF050SH is the important part. The 1855, I don't know what that is. I think it might designate an output shaft length or an RPM or a gear set that is optional for it. But my limited experience says these are the same motor. And the difference is, since it's for an RC application, they've added the capacitor just to reduce noise in the circuit. I would like to also do a shout out to Kenny Kaiser, because about a month ago, when I could not find a motor, he stepped up and was just an awesome guy. Sent me 2 of them. I couldn't believe that. I just needed one to get going, because I had blown up the motor on this crawler, and at the time I had that and an Enduro 24, and the Enduro just doesn't perform, and this one is my competition crawler, and it does amazingly. But anyway, I was going berserk because I'm sitting there looking at my crawler course, stuck at home, and couldn't drive my car. So I tried to mount a PN70 motor, which is this, and you'll notice it looks quite a bit different than the other two. It's short, sort of like the first one. It's more compact, but it's, you know, than the barrage motor, but it has a bit more end to it. It's about the same overall length as the barrage motor, but it's got the more compact look of the stock one. Well, the PN70, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I generally use these in race cars. I race Mini Z's as soon as racing starts back up. And I've been racing with these for about 2 years, and I just knew them as a race motor, and they're not all made the same. They look the same, but one of them will be fast and one of them is just not fast. So it seems to me that there is, and this is opinion, it seems that there is some difference in the way they are, I don't know, made or balanced or something, because every once in a while you'll get one that's just ridiculously fast. And it's a 70 turn motor. It's brushed. You can use it with your stock ESC. And when you do this, though, you will need to change a few things on your truck. Just a word of warning when you do that. And the reason for that is, when you look at the barrage motor, if I can find where I put it, right here, it's got about a it says 1.4, but it's about a 1.5 millimeter shaft. And there it is. The stock motor is 1.5 millimeter. Here's the problem. PN70, 2 millimeter. So it's a 0.5 millimeter wider diameter shaft than stock or barrage. And when you buy the hot racing gear set, and I don't have the packaging in front of me, but the hot racing gear set comes with a gear, a pinion gear, that will go on to a barrage motor or a stock motor. It's good for the 1.5. I don't want to force it on there because this is a motor that I'm not probably going to use this gear on. So, but it's meant for the stock motor. So the first one I tried to drill it out and was actually successful. I've got a drill press and was able to put a drill through that and basically hog out the hole to be able to go on to the PN70 motor. So I went online and had to learn a lot about gears. The modulus of a gear is basically a measurement of the end of the tooth to another specific part of the tooth, and it's basically a measure of coarseness. So once I figured that out, you can see the difference in the, I'll zoom that in. I went on eBay and got the same number of teeth, the same modulus, but the aperture is quite a bit larger, and stock it will accept a 2 millimeter output shaft. And that's the difference in size of the two axles. And I'll show you what that looks like on my iPad, the actual thing that I purchased. You can see here that it's 0.5 modulus, 8-tooth plastic spur gear, and aperture is 2mm, and they're really cheap. Shipping is actually more than the 20 gears. The actual price is only $155, but it costs about $5 to ship them. So just keep that in mind. I'll show you the hot racing one, the eBay listings, where you can get one, and it has the 8-tooth 0.5 modulus, and it is for the SCX24, and these do come with the 1.5mm aperture for the output shaft. So if you're going to do that, I would almost recommend just ordering a 0.5 modulus pinion with a 1.5mm aperture, and you're basically going to get the same thing without paying for a package and a name. But I'm more interested in having the gears than I am in having a certain brand name on my car, because I don't care. And I hope that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but I really have kind of a hard time spending $5 for a little tiny piece of plastic. And you'll see that it runs just fine. The one difference between these two gears, one of them is a bit taller than the other, if you can see that. And that can be corrected very easily with the razor blade knife. Just put them next to each other like this, figure out how much you don't want, and chop it off. Not a problem. So that's the two gears. If you're going to run the PN70 motor, it will not fit with the standard transmission because it's physically too large, and the shaft will basically, the motor can would get into the shaft of the so they're a bit different. This one is 9.6 millimeters thick. The PN70 is 13, so you got about 4.5 millimeters difference. And when you're looking at the transmission, that's a big deal, because this will actually not fit with the gear set. You have to put it on the other side, and I'll show you the way I did that. Hang on a second. All right, I went on to Shapeways.com and bought this 3D printed transmission motor plate, and in order to use it, you have to take the skid plate off the bottom, flip that around 180 degrees, otherwise the motor is going to come off the front. It does mount opposite of how the stock motor would mount. On a stock system, let me get a screwdriver so I can point a little better. On a stock system, the motor would sit right here. I just got a sticker on that, ignore the blue part. But the motor normally is on this half, and it comes off. So if you're planning on doing this, if you're going to run a brushless system, you got to flip that 180. You got to do some stuff because it changes the drive shaft positioning by about 5 millimeters. So you got to do a little bit with the drive shafts, but it's not a big deal. But it's going to be open gear after that. Make sure you don't lose the little gear on the pinion, or sorry, the spur gear nut. It will need to be held in place, and you can see the heat sinks here and here. I just have them rubber banded on because it works great. But that's how the PN70 mounts. Don't even try to do this unless you buy the Shapeways 3D printed mount. I have Velcro on it in case I want to move my battery up here. I can mount the battery either in the back or on the front. Your Shapeways mount won't have that Velcro unless you put it there. So that's how you'd put that on. and it is a nice mount. They shipped fairly quickly, I guess, but I really like it. I built the entire car just because I had that mount, and I really wanted to do it. And when I burned up my barrage motor and had no other motor to run, I tried to install this one in my my other SCX24, and just it couldn't be done. That one is so modded out that there was no room to put it. So I didn't want to rearrange the whole car for it, so I just bought the new car and built this car around this motor and this Shapeways mount package. But the angled part goes backwards, and it's sort of sealed from the front. I don't know if you can see that very well, the lighting, but that's how it goes together. It took me a while to figure out the right way that was supposed to go. So if you're planning on doing it, that's how it's going to go together. And here's the last thing I'm going to talk about tonight. Probably should have mentioned it first, but here is the 88 turn stock motor. Here's the barrage motor that we've talked about already. And one thing you'll notice is the holes are in opposite corners of each motor, and that's kind of a problem, because when you go to mount it up, the holes aren't going to match. You've got to do something in order to make it fit. So this is the transmission that comes on the SCX24, and this is the motor, and when you put them together, those holes correspond, and this is the one that you can set the gap with, but they correspond so that when they're mated together, it fits in there perfectly, just like that, and works great. Well, the problem is when you rotate these around, you'll see that the holes don't line up. So there's a real easy way to fix that, and I'll show you the easy way. You can go on eBay and buy an SCX24 barrage motor plate. It's about 10 bucks. You wait a week or so for it to show up, and you'll notice that that motor plate has holes for either stock or for the barrage motor. If you're like me, the easier way is to just go out in your garage, turn on your drill press, and drill a couple new holes. And that's what I did. And I made this hole here and this hole here, and I basically simulated the bolt, the screw pattern on this when it's put together. See how this is the barrage motor in the upper left, lower right. Here's the stock motor, opposite corners. So that's all you got to do. I mean, it's really simple. This is pretty thin metal. It drills very easily. You got to be kind of careful or you'll blow right through it. But I saved myself 10 bucks in a week of waiting just by using a 1/16 inch drill bit and my drill press. So that's the motor plate. And the nice thing about the one on eBay is they have plain aluminum, they have red, they have blue, and I believe they have black as well that you can buy. So if you want fancy colors, you can do that. I think that's all I got tonight about gears. I've probably gone on too long, but if you're new to the SCX24, and we get new people all the time, this is a little heads up, jump start, just trying to pass along what I have known or what I've figured out in the last 3 months of owning trucks. And this is probably my favorite one so far, deadbolt, but it's not stock. Probably have too much brass on it, and finally moved the headlights where they belong. But that's my favorite new truck. But anyway, I'm gonna name it later on. I think I know what its name's gonna be, because cars kind of tell you what their name is. You don't name them, they tell you what it is. And I think I know what its name is already. But anyway, enough of that. Hope this helps in your journey of insanity. Hopefully you don't go off the deep end as far as I have. And By the way, this is a HBX Devastator. I got it for 20 bucks, and it also uses a barrage motor. Imagine that. Pretty typical stuff. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that it was informative, and if you appreciate it, throw me a like. If you don't, that's fine too. I don't care. Anyway, that's all for now, and we'll talk to you later.